All right, welcome everyone to another episode here of Extreme Health Radio. This wasn't really a planned episode, but I figured, you know what? I'm very inspired by a lot of things. I really want to get some things off my chest. There's a lot going on in our lives and a lot going on with the show, and so I figured, you know what? Why don't we do a show today? So we didn't have any guests scheduled today, so it's just going to be me. But man, I've got so much to talk about. Man, oh man, oh man. All right, so we got some listener questions that we'll play in a little bit. I also want to talk about some bone health tips, so that would be really cool to share. We get a lot of questions about bone health and osteoporosis and bone density and things like that, so we'll talk about that. I want to give an update on my mom's, how should I say, on my mom's, I don't want to call it the C word, some cells that are going on and the story of my mom's, some rogue cells going on in her breast. So we'll talk about that. I also want to talk about schools and the unholy trinity of disease, in my opinion, that's happening at schools. And I put this all together on our show with Stephanie Seneff. So we'll talk about that. I want to talk about some of the benefits of aloe vera. I've been heavy into aloe vera lately, and I want to share some info about that. And then we got some news stories that I want to share with you that I just felt like, you know what? We really have to share these with people. And one is a vaccine company that was lying about its data. So I want to share that, as well as a really interesting article that came out a little while ago about blue light and the cancer risk associated with blue light. So that's going to be interesting, as well as an article I ran across about the dangers of mammograms. There's also some summits going on that I want to talk about, some really cool summits coming up that I should share those with you, as well as some Labor Day sales. So if you guys are subscribed to us on Instagram, then you'll be able to see some of those sales. What I do is just a quick little Instagram story. If there's a company whose product we promote in our store and we stand by them, we'll let you know on Instagram stories if they're running a flash sale. So there's a couple Labor Day sales of a few companies that I want to share with you in just a moment. But where should we start? Let's start with a couple show recaps, because I think that it was really fascinating to me. I think one of the most recent things that has happened with regards to our show is we had a really cool guest. I don't know if you've listened to her or seen her, but her name is Stephanie Seneff, and she does a lot of work with glyphosate. And she was talking about, and I think I'll just lead with this because I think it's so fascinating. So the show that we did with her is on our YouTube channel, and let me see if I can get to it really quickly. It's just so that those that are watching live can get access to that. So the show we did with her is, I'll put it in the chat room. It's called Glyphosate Solutions for Glyphosate, and I'll put that in the chat room really quickly. But we talked about, so there's some things going on with school, right? Okay, so Marla's here, Dr. Asma is here. Awesome. It takes a little while for people to come on in to the chat room and to the live show sometimes. So thanks, guys, for being a part of the show today. So we did the show with Stephanie Seneff a couple days ago, and I put a link to it in our chat in the chat room if you're watching on YouTube. And Jeanette, happy Wednesday to you, Jeanette. I appreciate you being here. How cool. So the show we did with Stephanie Seneff, you know what's interesting about these shows is that, like, I can sit for an hour or two and talk to a guest, right? And you can consume all that content and you can listen to it too. But what's interesting is sometimes all you need is like one nugget, one little thing that that you take away. It's like reading a book, right? Like 3 or 4 years after you read it, you realize, you know what? All I remember is 1 or 2 things from that book, and that was something that changed my life. So with Stephanie Seneff, it was interesting because we were talking about schools, and I brought up the work of, when it comes to vaccines and autism and things, and I brought up the work of Dr. Thomas Cowan, who's going to be on our show really soon. In fact, I should let you guys know what our upcoming show schedule is going to be like. Let me pull that up on our homepage, Extreme Health Radio, so I can give you a hint of what's coming up. We're doing shows 3 days a week, on Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 9 a.m. Pacific time. So if you guys want to join the live shows, we are there on YouTube and on Facebook under Extreme Health Academy. But I brought up the work of Dr. Thomas Cowan because he's been on our show before. And he was saying something really interesting when it comes to vaccines. He led off by saying, you know what? this whole thing of autism is not caused by vaccines. He's saying that's not the trigger. That's not the actual cause of vaccines. And so I thought, wow, that's really interesting, right? So where's it going to go from here, right? Because here's a natural doctor, and we're all about natural health and natural healing, right? So aloha, Sharon's here. Melvina Roundy is here. Please talk about pinched nerve in the neck. Thanks for the show. Yeah, you're welcome, Maria. Awesome. Wow, I've heard about a vaccine for tooth decay. Dr. Asma. Man, that is so insane to me. You get a tooth decay and they're going to give you a vaccine. Well, now they're talking about doing vaccines for cancer too. So look out, because they want to get everyone vaccinated. And this is the whole agenda that they want to try to do with adult vaccinations. So there's this emerging market for adult vaccinations. They want to pinch everyone. They want to give everyone a vaccine, every adult, every man, woman, and child a vaccine, because the adult market would potentially make up 70% of their revenue. So, I mean, it's a huge untapped area for them. So it makes sense from their unconscious capitalistic perspective, right? To, hey, awesome. Jill, 516 is wearing your glasses too. I hope you're wearing your blue blocks. Awesome. We'll talk about that. There's a study about blue light and cancer, so we'll talk about that in a minute. Tom's here. Thanks, Tom. So Thomas Cowan was saying, yeah, this whole vaccine thing and autism, vaccines don't cause autism. And I thought, wow, that's so crazy. Where's it going to go from here, right? So what he said was there's sort of three things in his research that are causing autism. And he said the first reason why kids are getting autism is exposures to glyphosate. So I thought, okay, interesting, right? Because he talks about how that damages your gut and sets up, bad bacteria and destroys good bacteria. And there's a whole gut, it just ruins your gut, glyphosate, on so many levels. And there's glyphosate in vaccines as well. So kids are not only getting glyphosate in their food from eating wheat and corn and all this stuff that's sprayed with GMO, but they're also getting it in the actual vaccine themselves. But Thomas Cowan said glyphosate, number one. Number two, which is something that a lot of people don't think about, is electromagnetic field radiation, which I thought interesting, right? And then I listened to, and then he didn't really explain it that much on this interview I was listening to. But then I heard a Dr. Martin Paul explain it beautifully, and we're working on getting him on the show. But what he said was EMF, it actually, what it does is, one of the things it does, it creates all kinds of cellular issues and cellular communication issues. But one of the main things that it does is it allows the calcium ion transport chain to happen inside the cell. So there's supposed to be no calcium inside the cell, right? So when you're exposed to this vibrating frequencies oscillating at such gigahertz frequencies, what it does is it allows calcium to get into the cell. And then he, on his research, showed that there are, I think, over 150 different disease processes that happen as a result of too much calcium getting inside the cell. They call that calcium ion channel blockers and things like that. So you can do a whole bunch of research about that. But apparently EMF just opens the floodgates of all of this calcium to get inside of your cell. So, and then he said that along with glyphosate combined with vaccines is what's causing autism. So you have the genetic breakdown, you have EMF, you have glyphosate, and then you have vaccines piled on top of those already existing things, combined with a weak immune system, and now you're getting like autism and all these ADD, ADHD, all that kind of stuff. And so I thought that's really interesting. And then it just clicked when I was doing the show with Stephanie Seneff that if you go to a public school, any real school actually, but if you just go to your average public school, what do they have there? Well, they have glyphosate being sprayed on the grass and all over the grounds, right? You guys heard of this recent lawsuit with Monsanto where this guy was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, terminal, which is exactly the same kind of cancer my mom's body had, is non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and my dog who died at the time as a result of that cancer. So this groundskeeper at a school was diagnosed terminal case of this. I don't believe anything's terminal, by the way. I think you can reverse everything. But he was diagnosed with this, and so he just won $297 million from Monsanto. So when you go to schools, they're spraying the grounds in the schools with all of those chemicals, namely glyphosate. Stephanie Seneff was also saying that 10% of gasoline products are ethanol, which are derived from corn, which were sprayed with glyphosate. And so she's sort of just thinking outside the box, like, what are all these different ways we're getting exposed to glyphosate, right? So she surmises that perhaps we're breathing it in as well with all of the cars and all of the exhaust that's floating around our atmosphere. And so when you go to a school, you have glyphosate sprayed grounds on the grass and the chemicals sprayed all over the place in that school. And then you have the food that the kids are eating in the school that has glyphosate on it. So you've got the glyphosate component just there in full force, right, at a school. And then on top of that, you have ungodly amounts of non-native EMF in the form of blue light, in the form of wireless radiation, in the form of EMF frequencies and cell towers that are near the school. And then you have the dirty electricity in the walls of that school. And then on top of that, you have the blue light that the kids are looking into and the actual magnetic and electric frequencies that are coming from the actual devices they're using. So your kid is just exposed to all of this EMF, non-native EMF, which is allowing calcium to get inside the cells, which is lowering the immune system and the starting process for hundreds of diseases, according to Martin Pall. Then they go out for recess, they go out and play, and they're exposed to glyphosate. They go to lunch, they eat glyphosate-ridden foods. And then on top of that, then most public schools have I was just talking to Kate about this. She's oh my gosh, yeah, Kate's in the chat room too. And then in most schools, they're always going to have an on-call or an on-site nurse, right? So something happens or your kid goes to school and then they're going to get sprayed or they're going to get some kind of flu shot or some kind of Gardasil flu shot or MMR vaccine at the school. So any school is going to have the unholy trinity of those three things that are causing not just autism, but in my opinion, cancer and everything else. So, man, I'm telling you, this is a big deal. This is a really big deal. Where we're sending our kids for 6-7 hours out of their day, is it gonna support their health or is it gonna break their biology down? What is this doing? And that's not counting. Kate and I were talking about this the other day. That's not counting what they're actually learning at school. So if you are more religious in nature, then you're going to be upset that they're teaching sex education. You're going to be upset that they're going to be teaching evolution instead of creationism. You're going to be upset that they're going to be teaching kids about gender and all this stuff that really has nothing to do with our schooling system. So the content of what they're learning in the school is a whole separate issue. And for that, you can look into the work of John Taylor Gatto if you want to look at how our educational and schooling system was set up. It'll blow your mind. There's a 5-hour YouTube video on, I'm going to do this. I'll share it right here. I highly encourage you guys to watch this at a later date if you can. John Taylor Gatto, Gatto, 5-hour interview. Okay, there you go. So there's a 5-hour interview, and let me share this because this will just blow your mind. This guy is one of the smartest guys I've ever heard, and I'm going to put him in the chat room, and I'll do show notes as well. But you want to learn where our schooling system came from and the reasoning why they're doing it, and the creepy document that the Rockefellers have stating the purpose of what schooling is all about. There's some creepy stuff in there. So watch that 5-hour interview with John Taylor Gatto if you want to learn. But all of the stuff I was just talking about, the content of what they're learning, as well as all of these deleterious effects on the kids' health, is all happening at school. So schooling isn't something that is helping our children. So it's just really interesting. I put that sort of unholy trinity together with our show on with Stephanie Seneff. So it's pretty interesting. Dr. Asma says, the blue light is also a danger for eyes. I personally use that to treat some patients, but I don't have a choice. Yeah, blue light. Speaking of blue light, let me bring up this. Degenerative diseases are related to vaccines, that's for sure. let me bring up an article that I think you guys will find interesting, all about blue light. And, you know, you see me here with my glasses. In fact, I have another pair of glasses right now. John was saying earlier, see if I should actually wear these ones. These are stronger because I got a lot of blue coming in this light right here. But John was talking earlier about how he needs to get a pair. And John, if you go to our store, I'll share a link to our store if you guys want to pick up a pair of these blue blocking glasses. Really, really changed my life. These glasses changed my life. We did a show with Andy Mant all about the blue light. But blue light does so much. It lowers your melanopsin, or it lowers your DHA levels. It destroys your melanopsin in your skin. It screws up your circadian pathways. It sets you up for cancer. It sets you up for all kinds of other diseases. It lowers the electrical voltage in the body. It increases respiratory protein length inside the mitochondrial membrane, and that causes your body to need to produce more ATP, which is more energy, which depletes you of energy. It lowers your melatonin levels. It screws up your pituitary gland. Blue light is just, according to Dr. Doug Wallace, it's the #1 issue facing our health today is blue light. Not food, not anything else, not agriculture, not anything else. Blue light. So understanding your light environment is one of the most important things that you could ever do. Okay, so let me bring up this article here that shows, okay, so this is mammograms. This is the benefits of aloe vera. I want to share with you guys about that. I don't think I have that up here. Let's see. The dangers of blue light. Okay, so this is oh, I did have it up. Okay, let's see. Okay, here we go. This is just crazy, guys. This is so crazy. Let me bring this into the screen here. All right. Close this little ad here. So here's what we got. Study links blue light emitted by screens to higher cancer risk. The blue light given off by screens could be hurting more than just your sleep cycle. So a lot of people talk about melatonin levels, and a lot of people talk about, you know, sleep. But man, it's way deeper than that. We're living in a blue lit world under an alien sun that's causing every kind of health disease. Children and adults spend 8 to 10 hours a day looking at devices and screens, and the amount of time appears to be growing every year. Doctors have growing concerns about what all the blue light is doing to our health. A team of researchers at Tulane was the first to discover a connection between cancer, light at night, and a very important hormone that is supposed to rise in your body every night when it gets dark. So that hormone is created in the pineal gland, and it's called melatonin. So what people think about melatonin in regards to sleep, it has over 2,000 other things that it does. So it's not just helping you to go to sleep. It's a powerful immune-boosting hormone. In fact, in cancer clinics, sometimes they take IV melatonin at like 60 milligrams. It's incredible what they do with melatonin. A lot of people say you shouldn't take it exogenously in a pill form because your body's supposed to produce it by having biophotons interact with your the photoreceptors in your skin. So that's really where we create melatonin. But this is just keeps going on. Human breast cancer tumors attached to laboratory rodents, and they grew when the animals were exposed to light at night. That's because light, especially blue light that comes off from screens, keeps your melatonin from rising. But when those animals with human tumors were exposed to human blood with high levels of melatonin, the tumors dramatically shut down. So that was really the first proof that melatonin is an anti-circadian and anti-cancer molecule. Dude, my friends, we have no idea what's going on in the body. It's 2018, and scientists are just coming into this fact. So in fact, there's an 80% higher breast cancer risk and 3 times the prostate cancer risk for night workers exposed to light at night. So what about all this artificial city and home lights and using all those devices rich in blue light at night? So he says, quote, "So those are very melatonin suppressant, and we know from studies from other laboratories that the blue light from the screens and computer monitors, tablets, cell phones, that's enough to suppress melatonin and to disrupt the melatonin signal at night." Unreal, right? Quote, "Blue light during the day, we found, actually amplifies the nighttime melatonin signals." Be careful of what you read, my friends, because that's not exactly accurate. Any blue light that you get needs to come from the sun. So if you're exposed to any blue light during the daytime that's not from the sun, that could be any kind of light, from computers to lighting to office lights in your environment, then that's causing a lot of damage, my friends. So it says, so blue light in the day is good because at night it caused a rise in melatonin, 7 times the normal amount for a longer period of time. That's because humans evolved to be exposed to lots of natural blue light out under the blue skies in the day. With the blue light in the day, insulin, glucose, and fat levels got better. So did the anti-cancer protection. The tumors grow really slow, almost as if we had given the animals an oral supplement or injected them with melatonin, he wrote about the research. So this is really fascinating, guys. And I suspect more and more we're going to start seeing all of these studies showing that blue light is damaging to our health. And so that's exactly why I wear these glasses. And you see me wearing them all the time. It's really important to make sure that you protect your body, your mind, and your internal organs and everything you have going on, your entire spacesuit. You protect it from light, from frequency, from bad people, bad food. I mean, think about blue light and artificial light, any indoor lighting. Think of that like eating McDonald's. I shouldn't throw them under the bus. Maybe fast food. How about that? So maybe think about that as eating fast food. So that's why it's important. Light is way more important than food. Keep trying to ring that bell and let you guys know about that. A lot of cool stuff here to get to. Let me see if there's any questions in the chat room, anything going on in the chat, and we can get through. I want to talk about my mom's. Actually, before the chat, let me just share a little bit of my screen here of our upcoming guests, because we've got some cool guests coming up. On Friday, actually, I need to update this because we just had, actually, I think I need to refresh. We have Dr. Frank Schallenberger coming up on Friday. We're going to be talking with him at 10:45 a.m. Pacific time about ozone therapy and the power of ozone for healing and your health. And ozone is that amazing molecule that is incredible, and we're just starting to understand. And Dr. Frank Schallenberger is using it in such a incredible way, helping patients, helping their bodies do the healing. So that will be great. We've been working on getting Frank Schallenberger on the show for probably 3 years. So this is going to be a good one. Angel Horton is going to be talking about healing stage 4 uterine cancer naturally. That is going to be a cool show. Imagine being diagnosed with stage 4. Actually, don't imagine that. Don't imagine that at all. That's not good. That's not something that you want to imagine. But imagine overcoming that naturally. How amazing is that, right? Dr. Kayla Daniels is going to be talking about the secrets of detoxification. So that's going to be really fun to talk with her. And Dr. Thomas Cowan and vaccines and autoimmunity. And we're going to be talking about his book. And, you know, he sent me his book, which is really amazing. And he's stating in there that he's not really interested in writing another book about the damaging effects of vaccines. But what he's kind of taking a different angle when it comes to vaccines, and that is, what are we preventing the body from doing as a result of children getting vaccines that actually prevent them from getting mumps, measles, rubella, chickenpox, that kind of stuff. So when your children and yourself, when you don't allow your body to naturally overcome some kind of disease like that, I wouldn't even call it disease, just a little health challenge. When you prevent your body from doing that, then it has a profound impact on your body. Has a profound impact. So he talks about the 2 different types of the immune system, 2 different arms, and one is the cellular response mechanism, and the other one is your your body's ability to create white blood cells and T fighter cells and all that kind of stuff. So that's the part of your body that wages a war on incoming bacteria and incoming pathogens and viruses and things like that in the blood, as your body mounts an attack through increasing its white blood cell count and then effectively disarming and killing and getting rid of foreign invaders, right? So that's the immune system that we all kind of think about. But what he talks about is the cellular response mechanism arm of the cells to be able to do their job so that your body doesn't have to create and mount this effort to create all these white blood cells. So the first step of the immunity is this cellular response mechanism, and he's pulling out this research showing that if you don't allow your children to go through these types of diseases and these types of, not diseases, but health challenges early in life, then you significantly weaken the immune system, because it's like not allowing yourself to work out, right? You get stronger by working out. So if you don't allow yourself to go through these childhood illnesses, then you weaken dramatically your immune system. And then there's a huge correlation between that, the cellular response arm of the immune system, and chronic degenerative diseases later on in life. So it's really fascinating. All right, so then we have Ian Jacklin. He does a lot of work. He's an actor, actually, and I think he's done some documentaries or movies or films about cancer. So we're going to be talking with him about the natural approach to healing cancer, as well as Dr. William Wong, hormones, strength, and sexuality. So those are some cool shows coming up. So if you want to join the live shows, they're every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 10:45 a.m. Pacific time. So I've got a lot of cool little things that I want to share with you. Where should I start with first? I want to share with you an update on my mom's. Many of you guys know that listen to the show. The whole reason why I got into the show and doing all of this natural health stuff was back in 1995, my mom's body was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. And so as a result of that, it was about 8 years later that I actually got into natural health. But that was the first thing that started to kind of wake me up and say, like, man, this is just nuts watching these people go through all this cancer. Like, dude, something's wrong with our society that we're seeing all this, right? Like, this can't be normal. And going through all this is just not normal and horrific and barbaric, actually. And so anyway, she made it through, and that's a whole story in and of itself. But recently, her body was diagnosed with some abnormal cells, an influx of abnormal cells in the breast. So if you don't know the story, this was only a few months ago, but we did a whole podcast about it. And, you know, what's interesting is that I just spoke with her yesterday. And so she, during the time from 1995 up until a few years ago, she had another dance with cancer, and that was in her lung, and they removed lobes of her lung. And so now she's missing, I think, 2 lobes of her lung. So she has a really hard time breathing because they took out lobes of her lung. And so I hate to see her go through this. And so, man, and so anyway, she did this chemotherapy recently, and it just wrecked her. It was called Taxol, I think. And it just wrecked her. And so as a result of that, she had to stop doing the chemo. At first, the doctors were telling her it's not going to be anything near like what you had before 20 years ago. This is a lot better, blah, blah, blah. It's all that same sort of dog and pony show where they try to sell you their drugs and their pharmaceuticals. And so she did it, and it ruined her. And so she had to stop. She had to stop the chemo. But before that, I should back up a little bit. They did 2 lumpectomies, removing all of the cancer cells effectively. That's what they say, right? 2 different surgeries, 2 different lumpectomies, removing all the cancer cells, all the margins totally clear. Then they want to follow up with this Taxol, this chemotherapy. And I did my best to support my mom in her journey, but I did have her do a consultation. We paid for her to have a consultation with Dr. Christine Horner, who's been on the show a few times. And she works with patients who have breast cancer. And she's an MD, a medical doctor down in San Diego. And let me put a little note to make sure, put a link to her show. I'll just put Dr. Horner And anyway, she works with patients who either want to do 100% natural, or if they want to do chemotherapy and radiation, then she has a series of supplements that, depending on what kind of cancer someone has and what kind of chemo they're going to have, she puts them on a tailored regimen of anti-cancer supplements that allows them to sail through chemo, as she said on our show, where some people don't even lose their hair. Can you imagine that? So we paid for my mom to have this conversation with Dr. Horner, and we kind of had a little, because, Dr. Horner's been on our show, and so she was really kind of making extra time for us, and it was really nice of her to do that. Unfortunately, well, I'll tell you this before. Dr. Horner said to my mom, she said, you have two choices now. You can either tell your doctor you're going to do these extra supplements, or not tell them. And just so you know, if you tell the doctor, then they are going to do everything they can to get you to not to take the supplements. So I re-explained that to my mom after the consultation with Dr. Horner. And sure enough, she told her doctors, and her doctors told her, I love, God bless you, medical doctors, but man, I feel like saying stay in your lane when it comes to things, because you haven't done the research or the studies on natural treatments. And so they said, oh, we love those supplements. Those are great supplements, but just don't take them until after, because we don't want those supplements interfering with what the chemo is going to do. And then they went into how aggressive her cancer is, like it's hers, right? So then they went into all of that and put a lot of fear into her. So my mom followed their advice and didn't take any of the supplements, and as a result had a really, really challenging time with chemotherapy. So after all that, she goes to the doctor yesterday. And so this is what I want to sort of highlight to you guys, is that it's really imperative for us to take care of ourselves. Cancer is one out of every, I'm not trying to put fear into people and into you guys, because you guys that are listening to this show, you guys are amazing, and you guys are the cream of the crop in terms of taking care of yourself. But for those that don't take care of themselves, cancer, 1 out of every 2 men get cancer, and 1 out of every 3 women get cancer. 500,000 people every year die from cancer. 21,000 people every day get diagnosed with cancer. We're losing the cancer war. President Nixon, that was a good try, but you focused in the wrong genome. You focus in the nuclear genome, the DNA genome, and the cancer war is going to be won and lost, if you want to call it a war, and the quantum genome, which is physics, biophysics, and light. So we're losing the war on cancer. So the doctors told her that don't take the chemotherapy, don't take the chemo, don't take the supplements. They're going to, alter what the chemo is going to do, because the real healing is the chemo, right? The real healing is the radiation. That's where the real healing comes from, right? We wouldn't want turmeric, or we wouldn't want biophotons from the sun blocking blue light. We wouldn't want any of that stuff interfering with the amazing track record, the 2 to 3% success rate that chemotherapy has. We wouldn't want, to let natural remedies affect, that 97+% ineffective rate that chemotherapy has. But that's the lie that we've been told, right? So with 1 out of every 2 men and 1 out of every 2 women coming down with cancer, of people that don't take care of themselves, not you guys, obviously, that's a high rate, right? So here's the deal. So my mom wanted to go back to that doctor and ask her, she wanted to look her in her eyes and ask her why she gave her that chemo when she knew it would damage her lungs. And so there's a personal responsibility sort of thing that's not at play here that needs to be. But what happened was that doctor ended up apologizing to my mom and was very sincere and very apologetic and very sympathetic to my mom. And then she said, since we can't do the chemo, I think it would be best to do radiation. And then she went on to explain to my mom how her cancer, this is the languaging that they get us into, because it's not my mom's. It's not my mom's cancer. Her body has cancer. Cancer is the actual healing process of the body. It's not my mom's. It's there to teach her, and then she can let it go if she wants. But it's not my mom's cancer. But she said, your cancer is very aggressive, and I would recommend that we start radiation. So I know a guy. Every cancer doctor, oncologist, or every doctor knows someone, right? And every doctor, have you ever noticed that every doctor says that, or every time you go to a doctor, or if they're getting a referral, they're always the best doctor in your neighborhood, right? You're never going to get like the second or third best doctor. It's always, oh, this guy's the best. Oh, this guy, he or she's the best. And so these doctors always know someone who can help, right? Who they think they're helping. And so what happened was, so now she's recommending for my mom to go get radiation. And they have an amazing way now where they can separate the cancer that's supposedly in her breast. But here's the thing. This doctor told my mom that she readily admits that she doesn't know if there's cancer cells there. Because the lumpectomy got rid of all of them and the margins. Yet she still prescribed chemotherapy and now radiation. So, my friends, it's a challenge. This is a real issue in our culture today. Doctors, medical doctors, God love them. I have nothing against them. They are what they are. They do what they do, and we're sharing our world with them. And many of them are great people and got into it for really noble reasons. But whether they know it or not, they are the public side of the pharmaceutical companies trying to sell you their services, trying to hook you in. If my mom had never gone to that second doctor, she would never think to do radiation. But because of the fear that was laid out to my mom as a result of her certain type of cancer, then now she's going to go see this radiation. And God bless my mom. You know, we all have things that affect us from a fear perspective. And fear is the number one way that we sell things, you know, through fear. And so that's how we sell things. That's how we influence people, is we use fear. Fear is one of the main selling points of unconscious people, is they try to get people to be fearful. And then they have the solution, or what they think is the solution. So I don't blame the doctors. I don't blame anybody, because we all choose this life. We choose to live and during this time, and we choose every interaction that we have with people. We choose all that stuff. So ultimately, it's our responsibility anyway. None of that stuff is, if there is blame, then it lies with us, because we shouldn't have let ourselves get to the point where we are having these kinds of health issues. And so that's like the Chinese say. You know how the Chinese talk about superior herbs and inferior herbs, and they talk about the tonics, and tonics are things that you can take every single day. And so what they say is, like, a superior herb is a tonic, something you take every day. It's less powerful, because the idea of a superior herb is that you live a lifestyle that is anti-cancer, it's anti-disease, it's anti-illness, and all of that, right? So that's the superior herb, is the tonic that you can take every single day. The inferior herb is the super powerful herb that knocks out a cold, flu, or virus, or anything like that, or kills a cancer cell. These are inferior, even though you would think in our Western mind they're superior, because they're more powerful, and they're more strong, and they actually kill things or do things in the body. So we think, right? We think those would be superior, but they're inferior because, according to Chinese medicine, they're inferior because we let ourselves get into a diseased and broken down state. That's why then you have to succumb to taking these harsh medicines, even though they come in the form of herbs, that you let your body get to that state. And so that's why it's an inferior medicine. So it's the same thing with all this. So what I'm saying is that, I guess for me, I'm not going to tell you guys what to do, but for me, I'm going to do everything I can every single day to make sure that I never have to go to a hospital, never have to go to a doctor. Because once you get in, man, it's a hook, and they get you, and they use fear, and they do their best to try to to try to keep you going back, right? That's what it's all about. So let me just see if there's any. I said some rather inflammatory things there, so let me see if there's anybody saying some things on Facebook. Let's see. Oscar, you choose MMS is very good, but requires protocol study. Eddie, yeah, I've taken MMS before. We had his name, him on the show. What is his name? The guy who promoted MMS. What is his name? I forget, but we've had him on the show. Cool guy. And I did a whole protocol with MMS. Man, talk about powerful. Oscar says, wake up, not only the USA, in Spain too. And we doctors do not have money incentives they have in the USA. I know. Dr. Asma says, so I think, Oscar, I think you're a doctor in Spain. That's awesome. God bless here. I've lost my mom because of cancer, unfortunately. I've lost my mom and I didn't know about quantum therapy. Eddie says, move, sweat, keep blood and small moving. That's true. Oscar says, Andreas Kalker. Yeah, we've had him on the show as well, but the guy I'm thinking about with MMS, Andreas Kalker is a German guy, I believe, and he was on our show somewhere in the 200s, 200 range. I have to look, go back and look at that. But yeah, what is his name? Anybody remember the name of the guy who promoted MMS? I forget. Jim Humble. That's right. P900. That's awesome. Cool picks. Thank you for that. Jim Humble. Yeah, we've had both Andreas Kalker and Jim Humble, and we've had Carrie Rivera, who I didn't know this, but in our show that we did with, Jim Hubble. I'm not sure if you're making that as a joke. But the show we did yesterday or a couple days ago with Stephanie Seneff, she referenced the work of Carrie Rivera, who Stephanie Seneff said that Carrie Rivera is reversing autism in children using MMS. And when we talked with Carrie Rivera, she was in Mexico at the time. And now she's somewhere in Europe. The same thing happened. Dude, the same thing happened. It drives me crazy. Like, what is his name? The guy that did the show. He was on our show a couple times. Run from the Cure. Rick Simpson, right? We did a show with him, and I think we did a couple shows with him all about cannabis. And the first time we did one, he was in Canada. And then the last one we did, he was in somewhere in Europe, because he can't go back to Canada. He can't go back to, Australia or New Zealand. They won't let him back in because he's promoting the use of cannabis. Man, this is just, it's unreal what's happening, because from their perspective, it makes sense. It does. They're protecting their profit. I mean, what do you expect them to do? These are people that don't have a conscience. David Icke likes to call them lizard people. Chris, I won't even say where, Chris wrote where Carrie Rivera is. This is how much I want to protect them. I'm not going to say it, but Chris said where they are. I'm not sure if you're referring, Chris, to Jim Humble or Carrie Rivera or Andreas Kalker, all who work with MMS and having tremendous success with MMS. And all three of those we've had on our shows. You can look in our archives, but I'm not even going to say where they're located because I don't want anyone coming after those people. They're doing good work. But, this is how it's going, because from their perspective, they're protecting their profits. Natural health and natural healing, people are waking up, especially with the power of the internet, that, they don't want their profit engine that they have in the form of these products like chemotherapy, vaccines. When you start attacking them, you're attacking their profits. And they are very powerful. They are a very, very powerful group of people, whoever they are, whether they're lizard people like David Icke says. David Icke is crazy. Or I love him though. Or if they're not from this planet or they're the Illuminati, whoever they are. Eddie says, F them. Yeah, you know what? We need to love these people. Because if there's something wrong in the outside world, it means there's a reflection. Something wrong with us. And so we can only notice that which was internal and that which was inside of us. We can only recognize it outside if it's not already inside. So if it's inside, then we'll recognize it outside. So doing our best, that's where the spiritual work comes into all of this natural health stuff, is that we have to love these people. We chose to be here at this time with them, and they are here in our life for a purpose, whether they're just people or whether they're lizard people or whether they're not from this planet. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We need to love these people. Oscar, Harvey B Gelsen, we've had him on the show. Doctors are more harmful than germs. You know what, Oscar, is that a new book by Harvey B Gelsen? Because if so, we should invite him back on the show. I think every now and then he comes down to San Diego. We're on the way down to San Diego, and he could just stop right off the freeway, and we could have a chat with him again. His license was revoked. If you go through our archives, he is, we've done almost 600 shows, so I don't even know where he was, but go to our archive page and you can listen to that one. Harvey B Gelsen is an amazing guy, man. He talks about the holographic blood and how blood is a hologram of what's going on in our life. And man, you listen to some of the stories that he shared on our show about blood. He was saying that he had looked at someone's blood, and he has a special microscope, and Patricia, MMS means, it has a few different names. It means master miracle mineral supplement, but then they moved away from the word miracle. Some people call it master mineral supplement, something like that. But anyway, Dr. Harvey B Gelsen was doing this blood work, and he's got some special microscope where he can actually see images in the blood. And so he's done things where he's seen images of women being pregnant in someone's blood, and then they claim they're not pregnant, and then they go and get a blood test, and then they are. Or I remember on our show he shared a story of someone who it showed a fractured hip, and then like 3 days later that person ended up falling down the stairs and fracturing their hip. So I don't know, is something going on in the quantum world that we don't realize? That, like, is our blood sending us messages in some alternate reality? Who knows? But Harvey B Gelsen is an awesome guy, and we had him on the show. We should have him back on the show. Seeking Knowledge says, thank you for your interviews. You're welcome, Seeking Knowledge. We do our best to educate people, to get the word out there. Personal empowerment, that's really what our show is about. If you were to sort of distill, Oscar says dark field microscope. I think I remember mentioning that to him, Oscar, and I don't think that he liked that word because for legal reasons. I don't know. I think he wanted to move away from that word. But if you were to distill our entire show, it's almost another form of the work that Tony Robbins does, or Jim Rohn, personal empowerment, with regards to health. And so that's what we're trying to do, is to make sure that we are educating people that they don't have to go to doctors, that they can actually take care of their own health, and they could heal from things themselves. And all of the answers are out there. In the age of information, ignorance is just a choice. So if we choose not to search things on YouTube, if we choose not to search things on Google, that's on us. Like David Wolf says, the only real disease, it's not, cancer being caused by glyphosate. It's not our environment. It's not our exposure to blue light. The only real disease is a closed mind. And that seems to make a lot of sense to me. The body is self-healing. Yep. Like Dr. Bergman says in our academy, self-healing and self-regulating, always looking for homeostasis. And so that's what's so important about understanding, is that the problem we have with our mechanistic culture is that we think of the body as a machine, and now the fitness industry is taking that over too, and talking about how our bodies are machines, this, that, and the other. And that gets into the whole AI and to robotics and all of that, and trying to, do all of that. But the problem with that is that it forces us to think that we need to replace certain parts with other, like you can just take your gallbladder out and replace it with something else. We are more than a machine, way more than a machine. And the body is self-healing and self-regulating, and it's always looking to find homeostasis. So that's the thing, is that our bodies are always trying to heal itself. And so the issue is that when we have a symptom of something, instead of looking at, why am I feeling this way? Why do I have this A good friend of mine has atrial fibrillation right now, right? And he works in the computer industry, and he's always traveling. So he's exposed to non-native EMF while he's traveling, blue light. He's sitting all day. He's working in a magnetic fields of all those computers, and he was trying to figure out what can I take to. He was asking me what kind of substances and herbs can I take to fix my atrial fibrillation. But the problem is that we need to figure out why this is happening, right? Because 5 years ago, he didn't have atrial fibrillation. So it's something in the way we're living. And this is the issue with natural health, the whole natural health community, is this is my biggest problem, is that we've hijacked the philosophy of, we've hijacked the philosophy of the allopathic model. And that is there's a pill for every ill. We've hijacked that and said, okay, instead of taking aspirin for headache, we're going to take white willow bark, or we're going to take some astaxanthin to lower our inflammation levels, whatever. This is the problem, because the real problem is our body is responding to the environment. And by environment, I don't mean just things out there. I mean our internal environment as well, what we're talking to ourselves, how we're speaking to ourselves in our head, and what's going on in the environment of our gut, and the environment inside our body as well as outside our body. So our body's always looking to respond adequately to the environment that we're living in. So in order to do that, this is where the work of recall healing comes in, where it will create a tumor in order to wall off certain toxins and to actually do the repair that your body's trying to do. So all of this stuff, everything we're doing in our culture is backwards. So we're getting a symptom of something and we think, oh, we need to take more turmeric and keep going on all these plane flights. So the problem is that our environment and the way we're living is causing our disease. Our mitochondria is what controls genetic expression. So that if people are looking at the genes, like I was mentioning before, that we're going to find a cure for cancer, they're never going to find it as long as they keep looking at the genetics and the DNA. They're not going to find that's the wrong genome. They need to be looking in the physics realm, and that's where the mitochondria comes in. So the mitochondria is what controls genetic expression. So what happens is our mitochondria are always, they're like a submarine sending out radar signals all the time, trying to figure out how deep they are in the water, how close they are to the surface, what other ships are around them, what land masses are around them. So a submarine is constantly sending out these radar signals to try to figure out what's going on in our environment, right? So as a result of that, it knows where to go, it knows what to do based on that information that comes back, right? So the information that comes back determines what the submarine does and where it goes and the direction it goes. So our mitochondria is exactly like that. It's constantly sending out signals to our environment, internal and external, to figure out what kind of environment we're in. So one of the main ways that our mitochondria is affected is through light, and we talked a little bit about that a while ago. But also temperature and vibration and sound. So these are all the ways that the mitochondria get altered. And so it's constantly looking to see, am I in a light environment? Am I in the daytime? Am I in the nighttime? Where am I? Am I around toxic chemicals? And so as a result of that, the mitochondria then act accordingly based upon the environment we're in. And by the way, the environment also means the thoughts that we're thinking, not just the external environment, because then we can always just say, oh, it's some other thing outside of that, but ultimately it's always us, right? So our environment, internal and external, is what our mitochondria, the information it takes in and then alters our genes to compensate with the environment we're living in. So this is the problem. Simply taking turmeric or simply taking high-dose magnesium bicarbonate, for example, because your body's experiencing heart palpitations and atrial fibrillation because you're living a toxic lifestyle, and thinking that, oh, I tried natural cures and natural remedies, but they don't work. Well, the reason why they don't work is because we're continually living an environment that's making us sick. I shared this on one of our past shows, but Dr. Massey had a beautiful way of stating this, and he likened it to Psalm 23. And what he said was that we're all like feedlot cows that are living in a feedlot lifestyle. We're living in a feedlot, eating feedlot food, thinking feedlot thoughts. and we're wondering why we're sick. We're not sick because we're being, we're sick because we're living in a feedlot. The sickness is actually our lifestyle. That's where the sickness is. It's the way we're living. That's the sickness. But this is the problem. It's easier just to take turmeric, or it's easier just to, buy a pair of blue blocking glasses and continue to live a toxic lifestyle. So if we're going to use these things, we need to mitigate them for sure. But what we need to do is make sure we stop doing those things. So what does this mean for us? Does it mean moving? You can go on to antennasearch.com and look at how many wireless antennas are within a 5-mile radius of your house. If you're near a lot of them, maybe you need to move. That might have a more powerful impact on your health than taking any supplement. So it's crazy how this is, because it really comes down to, this is one of the things we did. Kate was living a toxic lifestyle. Her job was killing her. She was working as a hairstylist in a salon that was so toxic you couldn't go in there without gagging because of all the chemicals. And she would work 10, 12-hour days, 5 days a week. She had a successful business, and she was very successful at what she did. But she had to quit that job. Ultimately, she quit her job. So could she have continued to stay in that toxic lifestyle and taken turmeric and taken magnesium bicarbonate or taken more green juices? No, she couldn't have. No amount of green juice or supplement is gonna be more powerful than our environment, internally and externally. So sometimes what's required is for us to get out of our environment. And that means if you're someone who's trying to heal, unfortunately, it means maybe you have to just, tell your husband and kids or wife and kids that I need to go somewhere else. I need to go to Hawaii and live next to a waterfall for 6 months. And I need to go there and heal. So that's really what it comes down to. But that's not, it's hard to sell that. So this is the problem with the natural health community, is that we want to sell a pill for every ill. And I'm a big fan of, I've been sort of bagging on magnesium and bagging on turmeric and, all this stuff. But I love all that stuff. And I think that what we need to do is, continue to live a healthier and healthier lifestyle and take that stuff. So I've joked with Kate before, like, how can I get my computer in my house outside so that I could work outside? And Kate and I have talked about, should we, actually sleep outside? Something to consider. Kate says, or P90 Optics says, I saw a video earlier, Eddie America already working on 6G. Oh, what? They're working on 6G? My gosh. Kate says, apparently big win this week. California passed. Whoops. Kate, your chat is going crazy. Apparently big win this week. California passed a bill requiring salon products to be labeled so stylists and people are exactly aware what they are inhaling. No way. Kate, I didn't even know that you knew that. You're holding out on me there. That's awesome. We'll talk about that when I get home. That's cool. The government ordered 250,000 gallons of cyanide. Eddie, make sure that you don't get make sure to protect your internal environment. I just don't want anyone getting too, because I used to listen to Alex Jones, and not saying that you listen to Alex Jones, but just make sure that all the information that you're allowing in is for everyone listening, not just, and I'm talking to myself here too. Just make sure that everything that you take in is empowering information. We can't put our head in the sand for sure. And it's important to know what's going on. And Eddie, it sounds like you do, and that's awesome. But it's just really important, I think, for us the majority of the content that we consume in today's already cynical and sarcastic and negative world, I think it's really important that we fill our minds up with empowering information. Lasani says, I'm going to Mars. That's funny. Kate says, it's awesome. It's gone unregulated forever. No wonder why I was so sick. As when I found out some of the ingredients fell over 16 years of pure toxins. My goodness, I know. Susie says, Kate, that's very good. I gave up being a cosmetologist many years ago. Thank goodness. I know. Chris says, tell Kate we miss her. I know Kate's with the kids right now. So for those that don't know, we have 2 twin boys, and Kate is with them right now, which is why she hasn't been on the shows recently, but she's in the chat room. So this is really cool on YouTube. Let me see if there's anybody saying anything on Facebook, and then I want to share a couple more things with you. Gosh, I've just barely scratched the surface with this, and I have so much more to share, which is crazy. All right, a lot of people. Well, Judith says hello, and Carla says good afternoon, and then Roberto from Colorado. A lot of cool people. Sharon's here from Facebook. A lot of cool people. So this is great. This is really, really great. Let's see. What else I want to share with you guys? Here's what I'd like to share. This interesting article about. Let me bring this up really quick. Chinese. Let me bring this in here. Chinese vaccine maker found to have forged production data for over 4 years. Some biotech mixed batches of rabies shots with expired products and hadn't correctly recorded dates or batch numbers since 2014, investigators find. There's a lot of people out there that think that because something is released to the public, it's safe, and that comes from the mindset that are, quote, that there are such a thing as authority figures out there. And you hear this word on the news a lot. Authorities came in, authorities did this, right? They're conditioning you, my friends, to think that you are not an authority over your own life, that there are other people who are authority people. And what happens is that they make you feel through programming and through the mainstream media that these authority figures are there to help you, and they're not. They're not. They're there to make money off of us. If you start getting into the contract law and you start understanding contract and how the money system works, from cradle to grave, their desire is to extract as much profit from their products, which are us, as possible. And that's fine. If you use a birth certificate, then you're playing the game. You know, I use a birth certificate, so I'm playing the game. But the first step is to be aware that these people aren't there to help you. They're there to make money. And there's nothing wrong with that. I've really come to that place in my life recently that understanding that's okay. I mean, it's not really okay, but I've let it go because there's nothing I could do about it. China's troubled vaccine maker, in the eyes of China's worst public health storm in years, has been forging production data for more than 4 years, and official investigation has been found. Some biotech company, it says here, mixed some batches. I read that. That is according to, I can't read that word, report on Tuesday, which said the problematic batches were being recalled, including those that have been sold overseas. It said China had notified countries that imported the vaccines in question. Here it says some 18 people, including the chairwoman for this particular biotech company, and other executives found the vaccine maker early. Let's see, let me turn this off real quick. Yeah. Found the vaccine was earlier arrested. The task force said in a statement on Tuesday that investigations into people suspected of committing crimes or who had regulatory responsibility were still underway. So, my friends, this isn't necessarily this is just the way the world works, right? This is just the way the world works. So if some food or some chemical or some vaccine or some drug has been approved for testing, they're just approving it to make money. They really don't care if people live or die. They just don't. That's fine. Because to them, you know, our birth certificates are sold, for those that don't know, on the stock exchange. They're bundled and sold, and they're stored in the DTC and the DTCC, which is the parent company to the DTC. And our birth certificates are worth hundreds of billions of dollars each. So that's why this whole thing is all about money. And that's fine. It's just understand that. So always be questioning your doctor. If you have a doctor, a mainstream medical allopathic doctor, ask questions. Doctors don't like questions. But don't ask questions just to be adversarial. Ask questions because you really want to know. And maybe your asking of questions will help plant a seed in their mind. Because we've got thousands and thousands of people listening to this all over the world. And if we all start doing that and encouraging other people to do it, then it's got, doctors are going to start waking up. I really believe that. So I think it's really important to not trust just anybody. Just because it's approved doesn't mean it's good for you. There's another story here on Green Med Info, and I like the work that Theyre G does here on Green Med Info. I brought this up on the screen for those that are watching. It says here, interesting article, hidden dangers of mammograms every woman should know about. Millions of women undergo them annually, but there are few even remotely aware of just how many dangers there are exposing themselves to, or what they're exposing themselves to in the name of prevention, not the least of which are misdiagnoses, overdiagnoses, and the promotion of breast cancer itself. So here he says that was just a headline. A concerning study published in the Annals of Family Medicine, long-term psychosocial consequences of false positive screening mammography brings to the forefront a major underreported harm of breast cancer screening programs. The very real and lasting trauma associated with false positive diagnosis of cancer. The study found that women with false positive diagnoses of breast cancer, even 3 years after being declared free of cancer, quote, consistently reported greater negative psychosocial consequences compared with women who had normal findings in all 12 psychosocial outcomes. So that means a sense of dejection, anxiety, negative impact on behavior. Let me take a quick sip of water here. Oh, that's so good. We use the Omica 12-stage water filtration system. So that's what that is, combined with the Berkey water filter with a pinch of sea salt. So here it says, the curse of false diagnosis and bone pointing. Millions harmed by breast cancer screening despite assurances to the consequence. Quote, recent radiobiological studies have provided compelling evidence that the low-energy X-rays, as used in mammography, are approximately 4 times, but possibly as much as 6 times more effective in causing mutational damage than higher-energy X-rays. Since current radiation risk estimates are based on effects of high-energy gamma radiation, this implies that the risk of radiation-induced breast cancers for mammography X-rays are underestimated by the same factor. Interesting, right? Let's see. This is an interesting story here. Interesting sentence I'm reading here. I'm trying to read here. Even the breast cancer treatment protocols themselves have recently been found to contribute to enhancing cancer malignancy and increasing mortality. Chemotherapy and radiation both appear to enrich the cancer stem cell populations. This is something I've been telling people about for a long time. It's the stem cells of the cancers that we need to focus on. Chemotherapy and radiation don't kill cancer stem cells. They kill the outer tumor. And then the cancer, which did all of the stem cells, which did all of this hard work in creating a tumor, because your body's smart, right? It's doing something smart. So when the stem cells realize there's no more tumor, it would be like if you went to a bee's hive or a hornet's nest and just destroyed their whole nest. That's what it's like when we're using chemotherapy to shrink a tumor. The stem cells are left with nothing. And what do? They spread, they metastasize, and they go to other areas of the body, which it thinks, okay, I'm going to go over here and set up another tumor over here, because if it's over here, I probably won't get radiated. So that's what it doesn't kill the cancer stem cells, which are at the root of breast cancer malignancy and invasiveness. Last year, in fact, the prestigious journal Cancer, a publication of the American Cancer Society, published a study performed by researchers from the Department of Radiation and Oncology at the UCLA Johnson Comprehensive Cancer Center, showing that even when radiation kills half of the tumor cells treated, the surviving cells, this is the key here, the surviving cells which are resistant to treatment, known as induced breast cancer stem cells, called IBCSCs, were up to 30 times more likely to form tumors than the non-irradiated breast cancer cells. In other words, the radiation treatment regresses the total population of cancer cells, generating the false appearance that the treatment is working, but actually increases the ratio of highly malignant to benign cells within that tumor, eventually leading to the treatment-induced death of the patient. So when you combine on top of what I just read there, crazy, right? But we're not taught this, man. It drives me crazy. I was sitting in the office with an oncologist saying, I asked him point blank to his face, would he give this cancer treatment to his own mom? And he said yes. They're not taught this. And so when you combine what I was just reading right there with doing a biopsy, it's pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. These cancer stem cells are aggressive, and they're setting up shop. It takes 5 to 7 years for cancer tumor to be even detectable. So imagine putting 5 to 7 years of work. Let's say you were building a house and you put 5 to 7 years worth of work into building a house, and then someone just comes and destroys it. But they didn't kill you because you would be, in this example, equivalent to the cancer stem cell, right? So you say, okay, screw that. I'm not going to do that anymore. I'll go somewhere else. I'll go to the next city. I'll build a house over there because I know they won't destroy my house there. They've got better laws or whatever. And so the body is smart. The body is really, really smart. So where do we go from here? Let me see if what you guys are talking about in the chat room, because you guys are awesome. Okay, a lot of cool people in here. Gosh, I'm missing a lot. I feel like I'm missing out. Yeah, Eddie says there's lots you can do to become a secured party creditor and change your legal status via the IRS. There is, Eddie, but remember, if you get rid of your legal status and you take legal ownership of your birth certificate, then you essentially have a much more difficult life. So they're very smart in the way that they have tied the birth certificate to legal documents, and all of the benefits and privileges tied to those legal documents, like a driver's license or driver license, or the ability, having a passport, and all of these benefits and privileges. So it sounds like, Eddie, you are pretty up to date with all this cool stuff. I did a lot of research into this a few years ago, and I'd like to know more. So share if you can, Eddie. Send me an email to justin@extremehealthradio.com, and I'd love to learn more about where you're getting this information, because this is really cool stuff. I'm really interested in all of that stuff. Jill says, oh crap, I just had a mammogram. Okay, Jill, you know what? No big deal. Don't look at yourself as someone who is not enough. Your body is so incredibly amazing and so incredibly powerful, and it knows exactly what to do. So don't think to yourself like I was talking with Eddie about the birth certificate and stuff. I have a birth certificate, and so I'm part of the system that they're trying to use to extract money from. They're trying to make money off me. That's fine. You're part of the system. You just had a mammogram. That's okay. It happened. It is what it is. So now what you need to do is focus on cleansing and detoxification, and use this as a springboard to take better care of your health. So nothing, don't think that if I don't have we talk about on our shows, the power of sauna therapy, and a lot of people will write in saying, I don't feel like I can heal without a sauna. And I want to let you guys know that the body is always self-healing and always self-regulating, like Dr. Bergman says in our academy, Extreme Health Academy. By the way, if you guys want to join that, a lot of people have been asking a lot of questions about it. Let me put a link to it. extremehealthacademy.com, and use this code EHR14. That will give you a 14-day free trial. But Jill, don't think to yourself that you're going to die because you had a mammogram. That's okay. Just use this, like I was saying before, as a springboard to take better care of yourself and to avoid doing that to yourself. And, it's a spiritual thing too. Forgiveness. It's okay. It's okay. Dr. Asmus says, please, can you inform us about depression, bipolar troubles, and schizophrenia? Can we heal this disease without drugs? Yes, we can. We can heal all of those diseases without drugs. It comes down to radically changing your life. So if you're asking for yourself when it comes to bipolar, depression, these types of things, schizophrenia, if you're asking for yourself, you're in a more powerful position than if you're asking for somebody else. Because if you're asking for somebody else, they have to be the ones that are doing the searching. There's a lot of folklore and folk tradition and ancient cultures that say that when a person has to go searching out for the particular herb they need for their illness, when they have to walk for days and miles and search it out and seek it out, that herb is more powerful for them because they actually put in the work. And so look through some of our shows. Essentially, when it comes down to depression, bipolar, stuff like that, it's sort of out of my realm of expertise, but I know that living a modern lifestyle is got to be part of the cause of that. Being exposed to mold, being exposed to non-native EMF, blue light, living in the city, these things are toxic. They're very toxic to our health. Lasani says, in my city, Ministry of Health has set up a free mammogram in every big mall. Free. I went and talked to the person in charge lady, and she told me that it's done in America. So it's safe. I know, right? Yeah, I was just at CVS the other day with Kate, and, there's signs for flu shots, and they're trying to give these things out like candy. Poor people just don't know. Like it says in the Bible, my people are perishing for a lack of knowledge. Right? I've used acupressure for over 15 years on myself with great success, Jason says. Okay. Are you talking about with regards to a particular ailment, Jason, or? Yeah, Eddie says herbs will greatly be reduced if you don't exercise. Yes, very true. Very, very true. I smoke, eat junk food. Jason Tomlinson says, I smoke, eat junk food, drink sodas, haven't been ill in almost 2 decades. Your mind is the best medicine available to you. Recommend Qigong breathing too. Yeah. That's funny. I smoke, eat junk food, and drink sodas. I know, Jason, it's like, who's that famous comedian? What was the name of that famous comedian that was 90? George Burns. He was 92 or 103 when he died. And, this guy didn't take care of himself at all. But you know what? He laughed a lot. He found the good in life. He was positive, and he smoked, ate, and drank like nobody's business. And, it's one of those things where it's really important. Your mind is more important in your spiritual connection than anything you put in your body, whether it's good or bad. So, Jason, I totally agree with you. I like to sort of work on all levels. So if I'm going to try to optimize my spiritual walk, if I'm going to try to optimize my my mental state and all of that, and my ability to be motivated in life and things like that, I might as well do it with physical, things too. So I try to do all of that. But I hear what you're saying. Let's see. Yeah, cell salts. You know who works a lot with cell salts, fruits and veggies, is a frequent guest on our show, Meridian Grace. She is awesome, and she works a lot with cell salts. And I don't have much experience personally using them, but they're on my radar of things to try and things to get into. There's a lot of things on my radar. I want to get into essential oils. I want to get into doing more work with medicinal mushrooms. Been doing a lot of work with that, diving into light, mitochondrial health. But there's so many different aspects and areas of health to get into. So if you guys are listening or watching, Jason's talking about how he cured himself of chronic bronchitis with acupressure. So there's all kinds of things that you can start playing with, biohacking, all that kind of stuff. It's good to get into things and kind of have it as your goal of like, okay, this year I want to get into really herbalism, or this year I really want to get into success principles and start maximizing, I should say, my brain and mental health and spiritual walk. Or maybe you want to start looking at light and start maximizing and optimizing your light environment. So it's good to have little things in your mind that you're working on all the time. Kate says, Grant says, hi, I have brain damage and I'm trying to heal it with many things. What should I do through your experience? Thank you. Oh, Grant, you know what? There's a, Kate said, they might start giving flu shots out for Halloween. How funny. In terms of brain health, there is a clinic that I would refer you to. There's a couple resources that come to mind first. There's so many things that you can do for your brain. But what I would look at first is, let me think about this guy. What is his name? What is his name? Kate, do you know his name? The guy we had on our show, he came to our house. He worked at the Ibogaine Clinic in Mexico. What was his name? Oh, Dr. Dan Engel. And then there's another guy. So go to our archive and look up Dr. Dan Engel. Engle, I think is his name. And then the other place I would look at is the Dr. Amen Clinics. And look up Amen Clinics. And there is... Dr. Polanco, Kate, was the guy that we talked to that runs that clinic, but I was thinking of Dr. Engel because he was here, I think, with them for that in-person interview we did at in our studio last time. So, yeah, something you may want to look at too is what they do at the Crossroads Clinic, Ibogaine, hyperbaric chamber. What do you guys think? Let's all help Grant here. Grant has some issues with brain damage. What do you guys have for Grant? This is what I think is really helpful. Or if you're watching, maybe you can comment too. And that way we can all help. Nootropics are going to be really good for the brain. Obviously, for brain health, you're going to want to look at healthy fats. So lots of like ghee and butter and coconut oil, despite what the mainstream media is trying to tell you that coconut oil is bad. It's incredibly great for your brain health. What else for brain health? There's so many things. There's brain entrainment programs too that you can get that help retrain your brain, like certain devices. I think they have one at SOTA Instruments. There's a brain entrainment program, I think. There's lots of things that you can do, from nutrition to nootropics. So let's all help Grant here. So Melanie says cannabis. That would be something great too. Christy Hogg. Kirsty Hogg. Love these live shows. Reminds me of the good old days. Kirsty, you know what? We're doing video now, so it's kind of cool. So we're doing actual video, so that's awesome. Okay, so let's help Jason out. He's got a question about, if you're just joining us live, he says he has brain damage, and I'm trying to heal it with many things. What should I do through your experience? So I laid out a few things. For those of you guys are really experienced in here. Eddie and Jason really know your stuff, and Dr. Asma. What kinds of things would you recommend for Jason? I've laid out a few. And Jason, for a person suffering from depression, he can't see that positive intention. He is suffering, and is in need of someone to help him. Okay, yeah, that was a little bit ago that we covered that. Melanie says cannabis. Chris wants to know what kind of brain damage. Vitamin E. Okay, yeah, good one. This is the power of community. Like, it might be kind of a cool idea. Oh yeah, Kate says, check out the concussion show that we did with Dr. DeWitt. Yeah, we did a really good show about this. This is the kind of thing. It's like we have Seeking Knowledge wants to know about what kind of brain damage. So Grant, if you're still in the chat room, my friend, let us know what's going on, and we can all help you. Because this is what's so cool about these chats, is that we can all help each other. Let's see. Hyperbaric oxygen. Okay. Yeah, we did a whole show recently with, I don't even know the guy's name, a doctor up in San Francisco, all about hyperbaric oxygen. So that would be interesting to do. High quality fish oils, lion's mane. Yep. The Sacred Plant series talks about cannabis in different forms for brain damage and traumatic brain injuries. That's right. I know there's some things I'm leaving out. That's great. The Sacred Plant series. Yes. Lion's mane, high quality fish oils, visual cortex and cognitive ability messed up and diagnosed. Visual cortex. If it's anything visual with your eyes, I would recommend limiting and blocking all blue light from coming into your eyes. That's going to be one simple, easy thing you could do, because blue light damages us on so many levels. Vitamin C is good for you, for your immune system, which can help rebuild brain tissue. That's right. Melanie, thank you for that. This is good. This is really good. Keratin. Okay. Yeah, that's right. Oh my gosh. I think when I'm doing these shows and I'm doing them live, I have so many things because I have all of the practical knowledge that I have, and then my doing over 500 shows, and man, it just becomes so much to remember. Daily positive affirmations and subliminal messages. Okay, that's right. As well as circulatory herbs to provide sufficient blood flow to the brain. That's right. Like ginkgo, periwinkle, cayenne pepper, and ginger. Black seed oil kills every cancer cell. Yes, we know about black seed oil. I can't make that claim, but look at the studies on black seed oil, my friends. You know what, too? There's also photobiomodulation, which you can look at, which is the Vilite, something that we've been sort of doing some research into lately. Vilite or V-Lite? Let's see. It's called, let me put that here. That could help as well. No, that's not the right website for that. Okay. It is VIE. It's wearable photobiomodulation technology that allows you to get light into your brain and in through your nostrils into your brain as a result. So let me put a link to that for you guys too. All kinds of, see guys, there's so many things that are out there that we may have never heard about, that when we come together as a community, we can help, really, really help people. St. John's wort is also good, and Solomon seal root. Okay, awesome. Thanks, Melanie. You're a wealth of information. That's awesome. You know a lot. That's really cool. Yeah, so let's see. I want to get to a couple other things before we have to leave, because we are going up to a natural vet clinic today to help with our puppy, little Charlie, who's having some issues with her skin. I'm going to do some, in terms of her skin, we're going to start doing some, what is it called? What is the turpentine protocol that Dr. Jennifer Daniels promotes? And we're going to start using some turpentine on our little puppy dog. Grant says, thank you so much. Very much for all of you. That's awesome. So you know what, maybe what we'll do is in the future, I think this might be kind of a good idea, because you guys, man, you guys are listening to all this stuff. You're coming up with things that I've heard about, but are so far down in my consciousness that I don't even remember them at the top of my head. So what's really cool is that when we come together as a community like this, we can really, really help each other. And I think what we might do, maybe a couple times a show, is maybe we can all sort of help each other and, you know, have one person in the chat room kind of say a little bit about what's going on with them. And then as a community, as a group, we can all help, and I could share some things, and then you guys can share some things, because you guys are filling in so many gaps of things that I would never have thought about. Kirsty says, thank you for the amazing content, incredible form, and info. Blessings. Turpentine, yeah, a lot of people are doing the turpentine or have done the turpentine protocol, so that's really cool. Grant says, I appreciate your light and love. Have you heard about the Cancer Act of 1939, UK? I have. Yeah, I have. The United Kingdom prevents any cure information from being advertised. That's true. I mean, that's what they did with, look at what they did with Harry Hoxsey, Royal Raymond Rife. You know, and the Flexner Report is the U.S. version of that. But they just railroad anybody who has a competing product. That's really what it is. And if you look into John Taylor Gatto and the establishment of the U.S. school system and how that's tied to the medical system, you'll start really learning quick that it's just all about profits. And then you can read a book by Matthias Rath, and I forget the name of it, but he gets into the spooky aspects of what's really going on with the upper echelon of people that are really running the pharmaceutical matrix. So that's, look up on Amazon, Matthias Rath, and you can look up his books. But man, it's crazy. Aloha Sharon, H2O2, 35%, a drop in your dog's water. Well, okay, yeah, very cool. Very, very cool. Very, very cool. Thanks. Everything is a scam. Eddie, I don't know about that. Everything is a scam? Depends on what you mean, right? What's H2O2? She's talking about hydrogen peroxide. Tom MMS. Okay, so some really cool information. So let me share a couple interesting things that have been going on with me. So before we head out and go to this natural vet, and we're going to do a YouTube video actually about, we're going to do a video doing a little tour of this natural vet clinic that we have here in Southern California. Some ideas I want to share with you for bone health. This is a question that we get a lot, and I just want to share with you some things that come to mind. There's a lot of people that ask about how we can optimize bone health, prevent osteoporosis, reduce or reverse osteopenia, avoid getting brittle bones as we age. There's a lot of things that I sort of recommend to people for bone health and building bones. And this would also get into the idea of preventing also bone cancers and things like that. It's optimal bone health. And so what we really want when it comes to bone health is for our bones to be flexible and strong, not brittle and strong. So what happens as we get older is we start losing bone density and our bones become brittle through calcification, calcium-forming organisms, and all kinds of things that are going on with our bones, demineralization, all of that stuff. So obviously the first thing that everyone says when it comes to bones is calcium, right? You want to have calcium. But what the problem is that our culture and our doctors and our medical system is so mechanistic that they think that if something is there, like cholesterol, if cholesterol is there in the arteries, then it must be responsible for a heart attack. And the only reason why we think that is because we can monetize cholesterol-lowering drugs and get people on these drugs when we know full well that cholesterol, just because it's there, doesn't mean it's the cause of heart attacks. So just like with cholesterol, the same thing happens with calcium. So we've been sold through the meat and dairy industry to drink your milk, and milk does a body good. And because calcium is in bone, you must drink milk because it has a lot of calcium in it. But what it really doesn't take into consideration is that the body is a living organism, and there's a process in the body that is called transmutation. And that is when the body takes two building blocks of substances or multiple building blocks and creates something out of those building blocks that didn't exist before. And our body's always doing this. And so just because calcium is in your bones doesn't mean you need to consume calcium. Overcalcification has been linked to every disease on the planet. So we're being overcalcified already as it is. So what we need is the building blocks to create calcium ourselves. And those are silica and magnesium. So your body takes those two substances and creates calcium. So look at foods. If you want to take calcium, make sure it's food. It's from a food source. You're not drinking rocks or taking rock supplements. These types of things are damaging to yourself. Not good. You want to take calcium in the form of like leafy greens and foods that have calcium in it. There's a product called Pearlcium, which is made from pearls, which I've heard very, very good things about. Never tried it, but it's called Pearlcium, and that has a high amount of calcium in a bioavailable form if you want to take calcium. But some things to think about in terms of minerals are silica and magnesium. Silica you can get in bone. You can get that in a bamboo. Let's see, where else is silica in? It's in the skin of cucumbers. There's lots of foods. Oat straw is high in silica, the herb oat straw. Magnesium also is in chocolate, and you can make magnesium bicarbonate. And the person who sort of popularized that is Dr. Mark Serkis. So magnesium is very, very important to build calcium, to build a strong cellular matrix, and also minerals in general are the scaffolding upon which our whole body is being held together. So think about remineralizing yourself. Other vitamins, vitamin D3 and K2, you're going to want to take those. You're also going to want to make sure that your blood pH level is not overly acidic. And the way you control your blood pH primarily is through breathing. We just did a whole show on that on our YouTube channel. You can learn how to do the Boteco method and breathe properly through your nose. And that's how we alter our pH level in our blood. And then obviously greens and things like that and magnesium bicarbonate will help alter pH levels in the body. And so vitamin D3, K2, something else you might want to do is rebounding as well. Rebounding is really important for building bone density. It's one of the only things that builds bone density as fast as it does. It's bone density. I'll put a link in the store for the Bellicon Rebounder. You don't have to get the Bellicon. I just like it because it reduces over 90% of the shock and the shock on your joints and things like that. And it's, in my opinion, the best rebounder. But rebounding is incredible for building bone density because it puts a stress on every muscle and tendon and fiber and tissue in the body. And all of those ligaments and things are connected to your bone, and that puts a stress on your bone. So it's really incredible for building bone density. Obviously, weight-bearing exercises too. If you really want to build bone density and keep strong bones, you got to do weight-bearing exercises. And something else to consider as well is magnetism, because we are magnetic beings and we live on a magnetic earth. And that's why I love, absolutely love the Magnetico mattress sleeping pad. I put a link just a second ago to our store, and bringing more magnetism into your life is one of the best things you could ever do. Aloha Sharon says, I use the Bellicon Rebounder. Yeah. Bellicon is just the best. What I like it too is just it's silent. It uses the flexi ropes, so it doesn't use the springs, and you can fold it, and you can have little arms on there so you can balance. I do it outside to get full spectrum light and fresh air. Seeking Knowledge says bone broth contains calcium. That's right. Magnesium, phosphorus. That's right. And trace minerals. Yes. So all of these things help build bone density. And then finally, there's 5 particular herbs that I had my mom go on making herbal infusions that were really great for bone density because they have a high amount of silica and sulfur as well as protein in them. And they're one of the go-to sort of herbal protocols for building stronger bones. And that is oat straw, nettle, red clover, comfrey leaves, and linden flower. And you can get all of those on Mountain Rose Herbs. So if you're looking to build your bone density, those are 5 herbs. And what you do is you brew a batch before you go to bed at night and let it steep all night long. In the morning, you strain it, and then you drink that throughout the day. And then the next night, you move on to herb number 2. And then you do that for 5 days, and then you take 2 days off. And the way you make an herbal infusion is it's basically it's not like a regular tea. You're filling up almost an entire mason jar, probably about halfway full of the material. And then you pour boiling water over the top of that. So it's a really strong infusion of the herb. So it's not like a regular tea. It's a strong infusion. So then you do that for 5 days on, 2 days off. Combine that with taking bone broth, doing magnesium and silica. Organo Living Silica has a great product. You can take bamboo. There's a lot of silica in that, oat straw. And then rebounding, vitamin D3, K2. If you want to take calcium, get it from food first. Or I'm not recommending Pearlcium. It's just something I've heard about recently. So you might want to look into that. And then obviously rebounding and weightlifting are going to be key for you. Obviously getting in the sun every single day is very important. And then bringing more magnetism into your life there's lots of different ways you can bring more magnetism into your life. One of the best ways I like to do it is with the Magnetico sleep pad, because that allows you to utilize the benefits of magnets and what they're doing to our cellular biology for 8 hours every night. Eddie says, you don't see old folks on rebounders, but young is good. Yeah, I see old folks on rebounders. A lot of old folks. But if you're meaning really, really old, maybe not. But they do have, the Bellicon does have little hands or, things that you can put on the side to balance so that you don't fall off. Azomite. Okay. Interesting. Got to go, guys. All right. That's Fiji water has silica. Yeah. Does it have silica? I've heard that. Have a good one, Eddie. I hope you have a great day and whatever you're doing. Peace out. Jason gives you 2 thumbs up. That's awesome. 2 fingers up. That's cool. Yeah, you guys are amazing. And, this is so much fun for me to come and do these shows, and there's so much going on with what's happening. I want to thank our latest patrons, I should say. Brittany Wisneski, For those that don't know, you can support us on Patreon if you like. I'll put a link, in our to. For those of that want to just support the show, let's see it, www.extremehealthradio.com. And if you scroll down to the bottom, there's a link for Patreon, and you can support the show a couple dollars a month or something if you like the work that we're doing. If not, just share it and pass it on to others. But Brittany Wisniewski, thank you for your patronage. Mac Connor, thank you for yours. And Salvatore Usai, thank you for your for donating to us every single month on Patreon. All right, we covered a lot today, didn't we? One thing that I wanted to talk about was this experience I'm having with the Juve light, and on a wart that I have on my arm, and it's really interesting. And maybe I'll share, 'cause I'm sort of halfway through this experience, and it's not all the way gone yet, but I'm noticing a big difference in this wart that's on my left forearm, and using the Juve light therapy. So I think what I'll do is I will talk more about that next time, because there's some times where time just runs out and you just don't have enough time. I got to get going to this clinic, and but yeah, this Juve light therapy that I've been using has been having an interesting effect on this wart. So I find that to be very interesting. So I'll share that next time. Jason, much love to you all. Thank you for joining us, my friend. I really appreciate it. Lasani, thanks everyone for such an informative show. I hope there were some good things. Half the good things are coming from you guys in the chat room. You guys are super knowledgeable. Sharon says Fiji was the only bottled water that has silica. Tom, yeah, I'll see you later, my friend. Have a good one. Come back, join us again on Monday. Actually, on Friday, we're going to have Dr. Frank Schallenberger on the show, so make sure to come join us on for that. And two other things I wanted to let you guys know about, too. I would be remiss in not sharing this with you. There's 2 summits coming up, and if you guys have not checked out the summits, check these things out, because they're really informative, and you can learn a ton of really great information. And the one that's coming up is the IBS and SIBO Summit on September 3rd through September 10th of 2018. So I'll put a link to that. And this one is interesting to me, this one as well. This is let me put this in the show notes as well, or in the chat room, I should say, if you're watching. This is the Pregnancy Summit, Pregnancy and Motherhood Summit, coming up September 10th through September 16th, 2018. I put a link as well for that. So if you guys are interested in signing up for those summits, they're free. All you got to do is just sign up, and then you can get access to all of the presentations. And that's where I get a lot of my information from. I join these summits, and I listen to them. And when I'm doing my rebounder, I'm doing something around the house, I'm always listening, trying to learn stuff. So is that about it? I think that's about it. I should share. Thank you guys. Also, I should also say, finally, well, before I show, Gail says food grade diatomaceous earth. Are you saying that, Gail, in relation to our puppy, or for parasites, or what are you saying food grade diatomaceous earth about? I take that every now and then. I should start getting back on that, actually. I really liked it. But I will say that if you guys have not checked out the Extreme Health Academy, for those that are in the chat room, let me give you a link to that again, and then a coupon code. So the Academy it's an awesome place for all of us to take our health to new levels. It's a place where we release courses every single month, and all of the members of the Academy get to vote on the courses. So let me just put this here, extremehealthacademy.com. Use code EHR14. Guys can't do more than 2 things at once, can we? It's so hard for us to do more than one thing at one time. But yeah, the Academy is for those that are serious about your health. And if you're watching this on the chat, I suspect that you're serious about your health. And it's for those of you that really want to take your health to new levels. And we have so much great content in there that's going to help all of us improve our health in tremendous ways. And, I want to live till I'm 150. That's my goal. And so I'm always trying to learn and do new things to increase my body's ability to do that. So Aloha Sharon says, I love the Extreme Health Academy. Cool. I'm glad you like it, Sharon. We're looking to improve. Stay tuned. In a couple days, we're going to be releasing the course on autoimmune disease. We're about a day late on that or so. That's going to be released very, very soon on autoimmune diseases, causes, and solutions. So that's going to be coming to the Academy very soon, and I'm going to be contributing much more content to that as well. The Academy is just awesome. It's awesome place. Highly recommended. I don't know anyone else in the alternative natural health space doing what we're doing with the community and with the level of content. And we're going to be doing even more content, working with new people outside of Dr. John Bergman, offering courses and Q&A sessions, and organizing all of the content so that we can have a database of, like, if you want to learn about asthma, if you want to learn about IBS, you want to learn about light, or if you want to learn about any particular health condition, we're going to be categorizing all of that stuff. So it's a constant work in progress. We're adding more to it all the time. So check out the extremehealthacademy.com. EHR14 will get you 14 days off, or a 14-day free trial. I'm reading the chat room here. Food grade diatomaceous earth for silica, Maria says. Oh, cool. Does food grade diatomaceous earth have silica in it? I didn't know that. I just thought the molecule had an interesting shape that kills and breaks up parasites. But I didn't know about the silica content. Sheeps and Neeps, Extreme Health Radio is live. Fantastic show. Thank you very much. Thank you all. All right, guys, I really got to go. I got to get back, and so I can go to this natural pet clinic with my wife, and the kids might be crying. So I got to go. Love you guys so much. You guys are amazing, and stay tuned. Next Friday, well, actually this coming up Friday, we are going to be doing a show with Dr. Frank Schallenberger. And that way we can broadcast that live. We'll be talking about ozone and what ozone can do for the body. It's incredible. So stay tuned for that every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 10:45 a.m. Pacific time. And you can join us on YouTube, Extreme Health Radio, or Extreme Health Academy on our Facebook page. So, all right, guys, love you all, and we'll catch you on the next episode.
No material on this blog is intended to suggest that you should not seek professional medical care. Always work with qualified medical professionals, even if you educate yourself in the field of live food, nutrition, and alternative medicine. I'm not a doctor, nor am I offering readers medical advice of any kind. None of the information offered here should be interpreted as a diagnosis of any disease, nor an attempt to treat or prevent any disease or condition. While information in this blog is discussed in the context of numerous conditions, it can be dangerous to take action based on any information in this blog or to start any health program without first consulting a health professional. The content found here is for informational purposes only and is in no way intended as medical advice, as a substitute for medical counseling, or as a treatment/cure for any disease or health condition, and nor should it be continued as such. Always work with a qualified healthcare professional before making any changes to your diet, prescription drug use, lifestyle, or exercise activities. This information is provided as is, and the reader/viewer assumes all risks from the use, non-use,